Right now I forgot what it was I actually burning to say before, but as far as the process we're going through right now, I do have a thought that it's difficult when there's two bills before us to exactly figure out where we're going, and each bill does take a slightly different direction. And there have been some, I think all of us received actually a testimony from Nancy Redfeather from Kona, putting like a merge of the two bills and giving us some suggestions for doing that. I'm not sure if she's there in Kona today, but
yeah, Nancy's here.
She is? Okay, maybe Nancy could come forward and I could just ask her a couple quick questions.
Hey, Karen, she's here. 1 second, okay?
Okay. It's also going to help us if we can, because now we're starting to look at some amendments, and the amendments are probably going to be to both bills, which kind of further complicates our process. I mean, we can try to keep both bills on the table. I think that's good because there are some important provisions in each of them that we may need to draw from. So I wanted to ask Ms. Redfeather if she could let us know her background just really briefly. I don't want to take more than a few minutes here, but I wanted to thank her too before she starts, because over the last several months I've consulted her a few times. Of the people that I know, she's done quite a bit with regards to the sustainability of our ag for this island. She worked on the Hawaii, let's see, I guess maybe I'll let you state what that study is and tell us where your expertise is. Nancy?
Okay, thank you. So I started out my career as a science specialist for my school district. I worked on a special project with the National Science Foundation, the University of California at Berkeley, to create a new science program for California for 10 years. Since I came here, I've pretty much been a home producer. But since I started and a seed saver for the last 25 years. But when I started working for the Kohala Center, then I became involved in some of the Kohala Center projects. One of them was rewriting the County of Hawaii Agricultural Plan. And then the second one was a project through the Pew Charitable Trust, where we did a health impact assessment of the County of Hawaii Agricultural Plan. Starting in 2010, we created the Hawaii Public Seed Initiative, which was an initiative with our partners at UH Manoa and UH Hilo to bring back seed growing knowledge to our farmers and gardeners across the state. And I've been working on that project since then. I'm the director of the Hawaii Public Seed Initiative. I'm also the director of the Hawaii Island School Garden Network and the chair of the state school garden networks and on the School Garden Task Force from the Department of Health.
Thank you. And you took some time to look over both bills, and I'm not sure if all the council members had a chance to read your email that you sent to us, but you combined a few sections and gave us a little bit of ideas for refining the definitions, purpose, prohibitions, and exemptions. Is there anything you'd like to add or clarify for us regarding how you came to those?
Well, the genetic engineering of agriculture has been an interest of mine over the last 11 years. I've been reading as much as I could possibly read, pretty much internationally, on the subject. So when I take the knowledge that I've gathered over the last 11 years and I apply it to agriculture today, the recommendations that I made on that one-pager that I sent out are kind of practical suggestions for legislation that could help protect our lands and our waters and our and the future of agriculture on this island for our children, because We are in a unique position right now on Hawaii Island, being the only island that really does not have the companies working here, is that we can grapple with these very difficult decisions. And I really applaud what I've heard today on the council, because all of you are really deeply thinking about this, and I can see that you're learning a lot about plant biology. This is something that, of course, we're striving to teach our youth today in our school garden programs, so that they all understand cross-pollination and the biology of plants. So I think some of my recommendations is that the papaya is here to stay, and it would be impossible to eradicate it at this point, and we wouldn't even it would be very, very difficult to do that. So I think it's very important that the papaya farmers are in no way distressed by this, because I think if any of them are concerned about changing their agricultural practices, there are professors at UH Hilo and UH Manoa that would be willing to work with them if they wanted to decrease their pesticide use or do things more sustainably. But I'd also just like to say that in the executive summary of the County of Hawaii Agricultural Rewrite, which is current right now, on page 2 of that executive summary, it outlines the goals for agriculture in the County of Hawaii. And one of those goals is to move toward more sustainable agricultural practices. So I'm really glad to hear that being voiced by a lot of the council members today. And I hope that we can continue these discussions to refine what we know. Councilman Yoshimoto this morning brought up a good point. While herbicide-resistant, BT-resistant crops could be dangerous, what about viral-resistant crops? Do they hold the same danger that the chemically resistant crops do? And that's a very, very good question, and that should be answered by an expert. So I hope that we can continue these discussions and help to refine this bill so that we can take advantage of this moment that we have right now, which is to move Hawaii Island forward in a way that has been outlined in our County of Hawaii Agricultural Plan.
Okay, thank you. Just one more point. In the letter that you sent to us, you suggested taking Bill 113 and integrating some language from Bill 109. I'm thinking, and Mr. Kanuha suggested doing the same, and I'm wondering if, after looking at the two bills, do you think that's something we could accomplish if we took some of your suggestions from 109 and put it into 113 and then worked a little bit more on refining it? Was that your opinion, that we would best take that route?
Well, of course, I think it's possible. I mean, I think both bills have good intentions, and I really want to mahalo both Margaret and Brenda for stepping up and writing this language. And I think now we need to refine this language, especially the definition of genetic engineering needs to be refined. The one that I sent to you is the one that Center for Food Safety is using right now in all their litigation. Okay, it's an accepted definition. And also, we could further refine the purpose of this bill, because, like Drew was saying, really what we're about here is we want food sustainability and for the future, for future generations. So I think that also needs to be stated in the purpose somehow, and just refine the prohibitions. And I think we really need to look at enforcement and make it very, very simple. I don't think we should be punishing anyone for growing papayas. I mean, the papayas are grown in backyards all across the county of Hawaii. So why should the papaya farmers have to register? I mean, what about all the backyard farmers? There's a situation that happened in Kona about 5 years ago where Toy who owned a health food store here, he had a large organic papaya farm in Hona now, and his papayas crossed with his neighbor's rainbow papayas, and then he was not able to sell them as organic anymore. So it's not just large farms. That's why once a genetically engineered crop is out, you can't really control it. So asking papaya farmers to register I don't think it's the way to go.
Well, thank you very much, Nancy, and I really appreciate your practical thoughts that you've given to us. Thank you very much.
Okay, so we're going into the third round. What are you doing?
I don't.
No, because then I'm going to go into the third round, so I'm going to go, okay?
I'm going to call,
Wait. Are you going to call him? Oh, yeah.
First?
No, it was Zendo first in the third round. Yeah.
but I don't
Yeah,
want to do
he's
it.
no.
Go ahead. I'm going to call the question on Bill 109.
Okay,
I want to get down.
okay.
I want to get down to
Amendment, Margaret.
Okay, so if we're,
Point of order. There should be no yelling at our fellow council people up
Okay.
here. We should treat people with a certain amount of respect, even if you disagree with them. We should hold a discourse.
so right now we have on the floor is a call for the question. We have a second by Councilmember Wille, and we have a second by Councilmember Dennis Onishi. So any discussion on call for the question? Okay, no discussion, I'm sorry. Okay, so
Could you
Mr.
just
Clark.
clarify what the question is?
Okay, right now, the motion on the floor was the Bill 109. We were in discussion, both bills were read in, 109 and 113 were read in, that's why we were able to discuss both bills. But the motion right now is Bill 1, to approve Bill 109, but the motion right now that we're voting on is call for the question if we're going to be voting
on 109.
on 109. Okay, if we're going to be voting on 109. So the call for the question is, should we go ahead and vote on Bill 109 now? So, Mr. Clerk.
What is a yes and a no? I just
Okay,
get mixed.
voting, voting yes means you agree that we should vote on Bill 109. okay.
Voting no means we're left with
Voting no
115.
voting no is there's no
I'm not-
voting, we're still going to be in discussion.
Correct. Just for clarification, if we vote yes on the call for the question, we're forced into a vote. We're voting
Right.
on 109
We're gonna
up or down.
vote on
okay?
109.
If we vote no, then
We're leaving it
then we can continue discussion on Bill 109.
109, exactly.
So no continues discussion. Yes, we're voting up or down.
Okay,
right.
that's what I...
Okay, so Mr. Clerk.
Yeah.
Ms. Eoff,
No?
Mr. Ligang,
No.
Ms. Ford,
No.
Mr. Kanuha, Mr. Kern, Mr. Onishi, Ms. Wille,
Aye.
Mr. Yoshimoto,
No.
Mr. Kanuha,
No.
Mr. Kern,
No.
Chair Poindexter.
No.
Chair Poindexter, you have 2 ayes.
Okay, so, no, Margaret doesn't have the floor now because we were ending a round. We're getting into the third round of discussion, and Mr. Kern right now has the floor because he had his light on before everyone.
Thank you,
That's the
Madam
second round.
Chair. May I have permission to ask Ms. Ford a couple questions?
If Ms. Ford is willing to answer, yes.
Of course.
Okay. This first one, hopefully you don't take it offensive. Are you an expert in the field of genetically modified crops?
No.
Are you an expert in the field of bees?
Yes.
Do you have a degree?
No.
What would qualify you as an expert in the field of bees?
Because when I began to do, I wanted to keep honeybees, and before I ever started, I went through the encyclopedia. I mean, I read it cover to cover. I read about 8 or 9 manuals on beekeeping and the diseases of beekeeping. And of course, I have a biology background too.
So
am I-
self-educated expert.
I am self-educated on honeybees.
Okay. Do you have a science degree?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
My BA is in, I'm sorry.
So one of my questions then is the flowers that you have. So you're basically no GMO on the flowers, okay?
No. I didn't say that.
Everything. This is.
You're speaking for me. Please don't do that.
Okay, well, okay. The way that I'm reading it, and maybe I'm misinterpreting it, but it's across the board on genetically modified crops. Doesn't say specific to
That is
to
correct
food.
as it's written at this moment.
Okay, so that would include the horticulture and the flower industry.
Yes.
Okay, you'd made a point earlier that orchids, and I know this as well, are not pollinated by bees.
Of the
necessarily.
60 or so thousand species of orchids, I personally don't know of any, but there may be some on the planet. I grow orchids.
And so that would be a good thing to know. I wouldn't see why you would. I wouldn't see why you would prohibit that an orchid if it's not going to affect, it's not going to cross-pollinate into other crops per se, and it's not going to get into the bees. So I don't understand that side of it. Thank you for answering my questions. The soil issue, this is, I just think we need to bring it, my personal opinion is we should, in this discussion, identify the 3 or 4 experts that we need, request them to come in and get specific questions to answer these. And I want to make that distinction between something that's virus resistant and something that is modified to who knows what. And I have a big issue with who knows what. I feel that there is a potentially a place for different things like papaya. I do. I know that there's citrus that are having problems in Florida right now, and it's moving into California. And we have the vector here on the island that spreads it. We do not have the disease yet, but we have the vector that will do that. And it's going to cause a huge problem in Florida. It's going to cause a huge problem in California potentially. If that comes to us, we should at least have an option to be able to fight it if we see that it's an absolute need and necessity. And that's my philosophy with this. If we're going to use it, it has to be an absolute need or necessity, not just to go ahead and it's going to be better. It should be on a direct need. But in order to get those questions answered, I think we need the experts here to get that answered. And there's so much talk about the GMO being all about pesticides and herbicides. And then we hear that the GMO papaya doesn't take as much pesticides and herbicides. And if you take the GMO away, there's still going to be pesticides and herbicides. It's still a soil issue. You still have chemical-based fertilizer. You still have soil burnout. All of those things still exist. I just want the public to be aware and all of us to be aware that just because you take GMO away does not mean doesn't mean you take away those farming practices. Those farming practices exist. And unless you want to go and ban pesticides and herbicides, that's the only way that's going to be taken care of. I do have an issue with cross-pollinating. I do have an issue with somebody growing a crop here and it affecting their seeds on their side of it. That to me is a form of predatory farming. But again, I feel that we should identify the experts that we need. I think everybody here that has anything to do with papayas should be able to go home and go back to work. We shouldn't be having a conversation about that anymore. It's here. What do we need to focus on to make sure that Monsanto, those guys do not come in, that we're pinpointed on what we actually want and understand what that's going to be, and if we need to have that option, and maybe it's based on council approval, if there's something that's going to be wiped out, we should have that tool at our disposal. That's what the science is for me. It's not just turning everything into GMO, though. And so that's where I'd like to get to, having that the distinction, allowing the papaya guys to go home, the horticulture guys to go home. Let's get the experts in here, and let's make sure that we put something good together that will keep our island safe, and we will not have the issues that we're seeing on Kauai and other islands. I hope we can come up with some experts that we need. I yield.
Okay, thank you. Next is Councilmember Ford.
Thank you very much. I direct the council's attention to Communication 385.2, which is an amendment to Bill 109. It adds a second exemption. Right now, you can see that there's a level 3 containment facility is one exemption. And the second exemption, and I will read it as it's on the amendment, genetically modified papayas on existing acreage where they have been grown prior to the effective date of this ordinance shall be exempt, provided that the owner is registered annually. Okay, I wrote this, but in reviewed her spoken testimony, I would like, so I'm making this amendment, and I move to amend Bill 109 with the contents of Communication 385.2. I need a second. So nobody wants the genetic papayas or the GMO papayas to be exempted, I guess, after all of this discussion? Nobody wants GMO papayas exempted after this discussion? Is that what you're saying?
That's a point of order. I think that's putting words into our mouth. I think if no one's supporting that, they're probably not supporting your
I have an
bill.
amendment to do exactly what this council's been asking to do, and now you're not doing anything about it. Okay. Well, let me talk about the floriculture industry, because I said earlier, you can't lump all flowers together. It is true, from the knowledge that I have of growing orchids, that honeybees do not pollinate orchids. Again, there may be some exception I don't know about. There's supposed to be an ad hoc committee that I'm not going to go into great detail, but the floriculture industry has a lot of plants, as I mentioned earlier, that are pollinated by bees. That discussion needs to take place in the ad hoc committee so that we can determine which part of the floriculture industry we want to exempt and which ones we don't want to exempt. I think we will be here for many years if we try to do that in this committee. So I don't think that is a wise thing to do, to just say all flowers should be exempted, because it's not a good thing for the honeybee industry or for our pollinators of our food. Additionally, I would like to make an opinion comment. This is based on my observation of politics, if you will, in this state. Anytime, and forgive me in advance for naming some particular jobs, but when you hear an attorney, a developer, or a politician say, I have no plans to do X, trust me, 1 second after they get what they want, they go, I changed my mind. So Monsanto or any other biotech company coming in and saying, we're not going to come to Hawaii Island, plant anything, you know what that is. You know that is a bald-faced, you know what. Okay, it's going to happen. They're taking over the whole planet. Why would they leave us alone? We've got 3 or 4 seasons of growing time here. They will come in. They have come in. They've sold product here, and it's being grown here. So that's something you need to think about. I would like to say the reason that I support my bill, I'm not adverse to Margaret's bill. We've got to do something. But I would like to have amended my bill to take care of some of the issues. In Bill 109, we have an enforcement capability. We have named a department that will be responsible, and we have enforcement. Margaret's bill has 0 enforcement. There's not even a department named to do enforcement. Because of that, her bill, if it passes, and I'm sure it will, if her bill passes, it's an oh well, so what bill? It doesn't mean anything. The minute it passes the final vote, the biotech companies can move right in, and if we say you're not supposed to do that, they'll go, so what? There's no penalty for that. You don't even have a department to do any investigation. There's no department to even do the registration. That's how empty the bill is as far as enforcement. If you don't have that portion, you can't do the job. Passing a bill with no enforcement is worthless. It's just a statement of our potential policy. It's not anything that can be enforced. That's the reason I wrote the enforcement in and went that extra step to name a department and do the enforcement, which I copied out of another piece of code for the County of Hawaii. And I'm perfectly willing to modify my bill to allow the GMO papayas. I think it's reasonable. I don't like it, but that doesn't mean it's not reasonable to do. But we've got 8 other people in the council who don't think we should do that, so I yield.
Thank you. Next is Councilmember Onishi.
Thank you. You know, I really support what Mr. Kearns was mentioning about like how we need to get the experts to come and let us know like on certain issues, because I mean everyone on this council right now has questions in their minds. I don't think we're 100% sure that.
Point of order, would you please speak for only yourself?
Okay.
Don't speak for me.
Okay, well, a majority of the council members on this, that's, you know, right now at this meeting, I think has questions in their mind, okay? And, you know, and that's why I kind of, like I had mentioned that, you know, we needed to get that group formed and then get things going so that they can help us understand the pros and cons about this issue. But the way it's going, I think that, you know, I'm looking at supporting Bill 113 more than Bill 109. But then also, I do have an amendment for Bill 113. And I'm going to do the amendment right now.
No. I don't think the amendments on, because we didn't read, we don't have a motion on 113. So when we vote on 109, we're going to then,
Wait.
yeah, because,
We read both in, right?
yeah, but we cannot make, can we do an amendment?
pending motion,
The
you're
pending
correct.
motion is on 109. that's
Oh,
why.
okay, okay.
So we have to vote on 109 before we can make any amendments, make a motion to 113 to be approved and move forward to council. Then we can address making any amendments to 113. So, but right now, we're able to discuss both, right?
Mr. Clerk, can
Mr.
I
Clerk?
clarification?
Right now, we're discussing 109, correct?
Excuse me, we read
The motion is for 109.
109. So any
So any
amendment?
amendments are for 109 at this time. And when we make a motion on 113, then we can have amendments for 113.